This is God's beautiful creation. Yes. Look. You know, in the Bible, in the book of Judges 16, Judges 14, and if you read the book of Judges, you will find that the pagans, when discussing the issue of sun worship, all of the people back in Old Testament times who turn to the left or turn to the right and never walk in the straight path used to worship the sun. Right? And if you look at the tip, look where the cloud is. Alright? I want you to look at where the cloud is. At the end of the cloud. Alright, see at that line, you have the cloud coming down there, and you have the water. So you have the ocean starting from where I'm at to the extreme end, where it seems as if the cloud touch the sky. So you have the cloud up there. Coming down now, you would have where it stopped right there, that line. If you go to the western part of your country, you will see where, when you go to, for instance, say, Negril Sunset Beach, where a lot of people from all walks of life, from over the world, who are tourists, including Jamaicans, or Americans, or Canadians, whichever country you are located, they will look at the beautiful sunset. What the pagan does was to say that when the sun, right, go down, it seems as if the sun would touch the sea. And when the sun touches the sea, it forms what we call Dagon, D-A-G-O-N. And it forms what we call Dagon, a fish god. So you have Dagon, fish god. Now, in the book of Numbers, every time Dagon get close to the ark where God was, Dagon will fall on his face. So when we'll see Samson allow the Philistines, right, to get hold of him, their victory was that Dagon was victorious over the true God. Because when men fail to act, then God cannot do nothing. And it would seem as if Satan won the battle. When Israel was faithful, there is no war or nothing that they did that the enemy could have triumphed. But when we give in to Satan in your respective country or your life, Satan will take over. So according to the pagans, that fish, Dagon, becomes a fish god. That is the same fish god that took Jonah to Nineveh. Right? Because remember, Nineveh overcame and God spared them. And that fish that they used to worship is the same fish that took Jonah to Nineveh. If you look at the Pope, official meter or mitre. At the top of it, it seems as if it is a fish tail. And that's why when it comes to Easter, they claim that they stop eating meat. All of a sudden now, all the worshippers of the pagans, they automatically become so-called vegetarian. A vegetarian don't eat fish. A vegetarian who eat fish is still a carnivore. Frutivore are those who are vegan, who eat nothing with flesh and blood. Nothing that had a eye, a mouth, and ears, and have blood and vein. If you eat fish, you are not a vegetarian. I never heard that they plant fish in a hole and cover it up and it bears. So to say that fish, when you eat fish, is a vegetarian is not true. That is pagan dogma, nonsense, foolishness. So when the fish form, when the sun touches the sea, it forms Dagon. And that's why now you have the fish god. Because when the fish come from the sea, the sun touches the sea and it forms into a fish, Dagon. That's why the people worship this so-called pagan festivity in Easter by saying that they are vegetarian only in Easter. They only go to church one day for the year. I talks about the birth of Christ one time for the year. I talk about eating the bread and drinking the wine one time for the year. That's a pagan response, opposing what God has said in scriptures in Exodus chapter 12 as it relates to the communion service, and also Matthew chapter 26 and 1 Corinthians 11:24-30, and also St. John 30. All these texts about the communion service, and you know the birth of Christ, right? In Matthew chapter 1 and 2, and Luke chapter 1 and 2. All right? So the fish god is what they worship. You can go and do your own personal research, because the pagan use the sun for everything. You see, because the sun is the biggest, right? Over 25 million times bigger than the earth. It is a superstar. So everything, and because the sun is vitally important to the plants and to you and I, when we get vitamin D, then the pagan will use the sun in everything that they do. That's why you find that Constantine changed the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday because they used to worship the sun god, Messiah. Right? And today, Christendom, I was saying to somebody yesterday, I cannot believe that anybody would worship on Sunday today. The amount of information where Sunday come from. And one of the things that Satan does is to tell people that you can worship God and be disobedient. And then Satan, like what he done to King Saul, even when God stopped talking to King Saul, Saul was still worshiping God, but not the true God. He would worship the God of who is Satan, the gods, not the true Jehovah God who created the heaven and the earth. But he deceived King Saul to believe that he was still worshiping God. I was asking somebody recently, do you believe when you're disobedient to God, you're still worshiping God? And the person was telling me that they're going to heaven. And I say, yes, you can go to heaven if you're obedient, but if you're disobedient, you can't go to heaven. Because my Bible tells me in 2 Corinthians 10 verse 18, is not who commend themselves will be saved, but that who God commended. So God could never commend King Saul, who was disobedient, but yet still, the Bible said the evil spirit from God. There is not an evil spirit that comes from God. What that means is that When you rejected Jesus Christ, the evil spirit take control, but God allow it. Not that God do it, God allow it to take over. Because you rejected God, God rejected you. Hosea chapter 4, verse 1 to 6. God said, you reject me, I reject mine, so I'm going to reject you too. So King Saul was not worshiping God. Right? In 1 Samuel 15 and verse 23 says, rebellion is as if it is witchcraft, and stubbornness is iniquity. So when you are stubborn and when you are rebellious, it is iniquity and rebellion. So when we continue to rebel against God, and you think, one of the things that Satan is going to use to trick many of us is that you're still worshiping, you go to church, you clap, you sing, and you make an open night, and Satan come in the present, warn you, and you believe that you're still worshiping God. Because many shall come to me and they that they and say, Lord, did I not cast out demons and do all these kinds of miracles? And he's going to say, depart from me, I know you're not, you workers of iniquity. So even the very creation, this beautiful ocean, sea, rivers, valleys, trees, animals, human being, all the good thing that God has done when he created this earth, Satan still use God's creation and use it to deceive people to believe that they are worshiping the true God. And when God comes, and you and I think that we're worshiping God, we're worshiping Satan. Because what? We rejected God's commandment and we behave as if we were worshiping. And God said, like he said to Cain, if you do well, your offering would have been acceptable. But Abel did what I said, so I accepted him. And so just like, you see Cain fight against his own brother, right? And kill him. The first family feud took place in that relationship. Jacob and Esau. Jacob did something right. He repented. Esau was coming to him, right, with his army. And the same way, according to Jeremiah 37, verse 7 onwards, said that the time of Jacob trouble. And are we preparing for that? Jacob represents the people of God. Esau represents Sunday people. Cain represents the Sunday worshippers. And Abel represents the true worshiper of God. God represents the true worshiper. Satan which represents Satan worshiping. So if you are on the side of God, you are called Jacob, who overcame sin. Revelation chapter 21, verse 6 and 7. And Genesis chapter 32, 24 to 60. He overcame his sin. So if you want to become an overcomer of your sin, like Jacob, you have to go through what Jacob has gone through. And if you've gone through it, and you hold on to Christ at that prayer meeting, and you never let go of Christ until you overcome, then you are on your way to heaven because you are obedient. But you cannot hold on to sin and reach to heaven. All those who are disobedient to God's commandment are Esau and Cain. You come down the lineage. And all those who worship God and follow his commandment come to the lineage of Abel and the lineage of David and Jacob and Joshua and the Apostle Paul, the Apostle Peter, Abraham, and all who are disobedient will find themselves in the same position as Cain, not as Abel. So, my friend, this beautiful creation that God has created for himself and for the blessing that we can get by coming to the beaches and enjoy ourselves, Satan use it and use it in a negative way. But remember, in Revelation 14 verse 67, the Bible says God created the heaven, the earth, the seas, and the fountain of water for me and your purpose, Genesis 1. Not for Satan use, but he's using it. And many of us fall trapped to Satan's ploy. Stop it. Give God the glory and the praise for this beautiful creation and stop following the devil. God bless you and thanks for listening. Have a wonderful day.